That platform launched early 2022, aimed to serve transaction for over 140 million connected devices. That's a huge one, fostering an economy of things. Named among the top 30 metaverse leaders to follow by metaverse insiders, David Palmer is at the forefront of the nexus of blockchain, IoT, and mainstream. It is my pleasure and honor to welcome David on this call. David, do you want to tell us a little about you other than what has been read?
I'm trying to get my video working, but no, I think it's a great summary. I mean, I've just been working in the area of Web3 and blockchain for a number of years. I've also had the pleasure of working in a global company in telecommunications. So you have two important things. So you've got technology moving very quickly, the number of mobile devices moving very quickly, and it makes a good sweet spot for change, right? And possibilities and opportunity. So that's that is it, and I'm happy to be working, with a number of organizations. Just yesterday, I was asked to join the board of a very big consortium in Japan as an advisor, which will incorporate a lot of manufacturers and other big organizations from Asia in the use of Web3. And it's my pleasure to be a part of this discussion, invited by.
All right, awesome.
Happy to take it forward.
Thank you very much for that. So I'll go straight into the discussion of the day properly. But before we dive into it full time, let's take a moment to acknowledge the presence of the president and founder, Eric Haigama. We thank you so much for being on the call with us this moment. So David, could you share an insight into how Vodafone's platform is contributing to the accomplishment of absolute digitization, especially in the areas of infrastructure and applications?
So I think, Solomon, in that question, there's a good point, right? And the good point you raise is platform, the word platform. And of course, we've seen many revolutions, technical revolutions, business revolutions happen over the years. I remember, business process optimization. What's been happening over the last 15 years is a move for every business to become a platform, for every company to become a technology company, whether you're a technology company or not. Those are the changes. So Vodafone has been going on a transformation to move from connectivity to mobile phone and devices to becoming a digital service provider, which means and applications and managed services in the digital sphere that go with that. So that is part of the journey that Vodafone has taken. It's been successful in the sense that if you look at Vodafone, I think there's 22 operating companies around the globe. We operate with 27 partner markets. So in the US, AT&T, Verizon's our partner markets of Vodafone. And the backbone of that has been the move to platforms, the move to decentralized technology, and the move to API driven architectures. So that is what's been happening, and there's a number of platforms underpinning this. Two of them that I'm personally connected with are in the Internet of Things areas. So one of them is our IoT connectivity, managed connectivity platform, which has been voted #1 in the world for the last 8 years by Gartner. And that has 160 million connected devices. I think 40 million of them are connected cars. And that has been very successful. But more recently, I co-founded in Vodafone a platform called the Digital Asset Broker. And the Digital Asset Broker platform is where you start bringing Web3 tokenization, and digital identity and wallet technology to IoT devices, including smartphones, so that they can automatically transact. So some of you would have seen the headlines about the move to electric vehicles. So I don't know how many of you have an electric vehicle. I got one last year, and it was a real problem when you're out and you're going on a long distance to find somewhere to charge. But we have applied the digital asset broker to that particular problem, and we're using the technology of a wallet on a vehicle, connectivity on a vehicle, payments on a vehicle. We're now able to have a fully automated zero touch, or you have to put the gun in, but a near zero touch experience using this technology, using Web3, using wallets, using payment rails, using smart contracts. So that's some of the things we're doing, but there's other uses in supply chain. And there's, there's, I was looking at a study, there's 7 billion, there's nearly 8 billion smartphones in operation, right? So if we look at it up, I'll maybe just put a slide up which can help. Let me know if you can see this.
Awesome, we can see your screen.
Yeah, excellent. So if you look at what's happening, in terms of, obviously the population's increasing. So by 2030, we're expecting 8.5 billion people. But what's also interesting from a Vodafone and a telecoms point of view is a forecast for 8 billion people. So well over 95% penetration of the world's population with mobile phones. And if you look at IoT devices, conservatively, we're expecting in excess of 30 billion IoT devices, cars, drones, connected cabinets, sensors. And if you look at these two areas here, this is the platform I work on, right? So the platform I work on is about connecting people and their identities and their credentials to phones, but also enabling IoT devices to have identities and wallets and link to payment credentials so they can transact as well. And those two lines, the mobile phones and the IoT devices, with Web3 technology, forms this economy of things. So that's the area we've been working on. And if you look at the sort of other areas that are key, if you look at digital wallets, how many of you realize that there's 4 billion, not million, 4 billion digital wallets in operation? 4 billion, right? Over 50% of the population has a digital wallet, and we expect digital wallets by 2030. What does that mean? A wallet needs to be secure, right? And part of what we're doing with the digital asset broker solution is securing that wallet using the cryptography and the hardware secure module in the SIM card. So again, you have these 8 billion phones, these SIM cards, and we're finding ways for them to power new applications, which I think is pretty important. One of the other things that's obviously a headline for the year is that, what is the technology headline for the year? I'll ask everyone, right? It's you can put it in the chat, but it's obviously ChatGPT and OpenAI, right? That the 100 million users in 6 weeks, forecast by 2030 to be worth anywhere between 2 trillion and 10 trillion, right? So very, very significant. And if you look at it, some of the headlines I was sort of writing about this last week, OpenAI is moving quickly. So ChatGPT now and OpenAI, I think it's GPT-4, can now surf the internet. So as well as looking at the large language model it's got, it can now, you can now put new information in there. There's new ways of injecting data into LLMs, so the large language models for AI, that can make them more intelligent, but more relevant to what you're doing. And this is a massive, massive market, which cannot be ignored in the context of mobile and cellular. It can't be ignored in IoT, and it can't be ignored for sure in wallets and Web3. So we're watching this very closely. There have been some forecasts that this is going to be the new tool. This can take. I think the leader of Goldman Sachs estimated that AI could replace as many as 300 million jobs. There's also a lot of forecasts on the opportunity side that AI could create a lot of jobs. It could tool people. It could balance the opportunities, right? Everybody can have a tutor. Everybody can have information. Everybody can have an assistant. This is a massive opportunity that we're looking at, but I would also urge everybody to look at this opportunity. I think Web3 is infrastructure. I think mobile is infrastructure. I believe that all these things are infrastructure, but I believe AI is the thing that can transform these things into opportunity solutions. So I'll probably stop there, Solomon. I could talk forever, right? So
the insights and the feedbacks, everything, and amazing with the data. So I was going to ask you something, but you spoke about the accessibility. So I just want to ask this one regarding the accessibility. Now, considering the human aspect, how can these digitization initiatives be designed to prioritize inclusivity, accessibility, and then the well-being of individuals globally?
That is a good question. And of course, as we're talking about Africa and we're looking at that perspective, I really believe that these new technologies, if you look at the last 25 years, there's been no time in history where you've had such technological change as we have. We've moved from going on a high street or a business park to shop and a bank branch to do our stuff, to everything, almost everything being made possible on a mobile. We can do almost everything on our mobile, right? And that is a massive change in automation, which isn't shared across the world, right? Because for those of us who come from so-called developing countries, some of the parts of the logistics and the supply chain don't work right for us. But I do believe that when you add all of these technologies up, Web3, Web2, AI, cloud, with mobile and data and big data and all of these technologies together, that it represents the biggest opportunity to balance the boundaries of opportunity that we've ever seen. If I could look at the last 200 years and say, okay, when do I want my children to be coming out of university and going into business, it would be now, right? But we have to unlock the keys, right? So I think the first thing is access, right? So I'll bring the metaverse into it, because I believe that the metaverse will grow with AI and Web3. I believe that if you look at the roles of these technologies, Web3 is infrastructure, right? It's about trust, it's about automation. And if you look at AI is an intelligence layer. But if AI is going to replace 300 jobs and you're going to have an army of AI assistants, they need to have a persona. They need to have an environment. They need to have a means of interacting with people. And that is where the metaverse comes in, right? And I don't believe that there's going to be one big metaverse. I believe there'll be embedded metaverse. So there'll be a WhatsApp metaverse, an Apple metaverse, a Google metaverse. Eventually they'll converge. But I say this to say that access to online becomes now more important than ever, right? The infrastructure and the accessibility to have quality internet access becomes a way of life. It becomes a right to life. Now, if that can be done, then part of what I'm thinking is that, okay, all of a sudden, people have equality of opportunity in terms of access to AI, right? Access to AI, access to information. Also, what it means is that our data, so African data and developing country data, can start to get online, right? Because if you look at the data sets that are feeding ChatGPT now, I can guarantee that it's heavily biased to the people who are online creating that data, and that will not include enough proportion of Africa, right? And our minorities. So socioeconomically, there's some balancing that needs to be done, and for that, people need access. They need to be doing more. They need to be shopping online. They need to be posting online. They need to be socializing online. They need to be working online. So I think there's that. And then maybe what we should be thinking of is, can Africa or can diasporas like this form our own LLM, right? Can we have an LLM that is more representative, or an LLM for our people or our industries, right? And if you start having that and we start having our own AI, or people want to pay us to inject that equality of information into the broader sense, because we're consumers as well, then maybe that's a good start, right? Maybe the fact that we're underrepresented in the current AI models is an opportunity. But I do agree with you. We are underrepresented. I think the next thing is how we take advantage. So we move forward and we say, okay, this is a massive opportunity, which it is. This can reset the boundaries of opportunity, which it can. Then how best do I position myself? And if you look at what can be done, the metaverse and Web3 provides the opportunity for us to organize and collaborate in a way that we've never been able to before across the world, right? If this was a metaverse forum, it would be like we're together. We can share things, we can do that securely, we can collaborate. So I think the ability for people across the globe from the right diaspora to organize themselves, into what I call virtual businesses, using blockchain and Web3 to secure that, using wallets to secure the finances and the banking, and using the metaverse to provide that collaboration environment is probably really important, right? And I believe there'll be a lot of opportunities for virtual businesses. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for AI and the AI workforce, for us to program that with our own LLMs. And I believe that there's going to be opportunity in the collective, meaning that if you think of a business is the sum of people and resources, right? And where people and resources can come together quickly, flexibly, in an organized way, then you have the ability to realize and service big opportunities that you can't. And I think part of that is what our president, Eric, is doing with this forum. And it can be much larger, right? It can be more systematic. So I think there's an opportunity for us to come together using Web3 and wallets and identity to form virtual businesses. And I believe that when we pair that with resources, that can power a lot of access to opportunities that aren't there now. So I'll stop, Solomon, I can talk, right? So
the more you keep talking, the more I have questions piled up. You made mention about security, you made mention about funding, you made mention about underrepresentation and all, but I would like to just see how I can combine like one or two questions together. Considering the need for, let's say, global collaboration of digitization efforts, in your own opinion, what are the challenges you've observed and how can they be overcome to, let's say, to foster more effective collaboration, as well as in the security aspect? We all know how security is paramount, right? From your own perspective, how can businesses ensure security and integrity of that digitization efforts, particularly when it comes to incorporating blockchain technologies?
Are you talking about airports? That's all.
No, blockchain tech. I talk about security. How can businesses leverage on this platform to ensure the integrity as well as the security of digitization efforts?
Sure. So I think you're absolutely right. Blockchain is security, right? So it's security, it's decentralized, and through that decentralization, there's time stamping. There's why cryptocurrency is called cryptocurrency is because of the cryptography, right? It's cryptographically signed. It's cryptographic. The data is encrypted, and that is important and more, in my view, more secure than a lot of what we're doing now. I think if you look at the business world now, and I was talking about this yesterday, we're caught between two worlds, right? We're caught in the paper world and the file-based world, where everything in terms of proofs and security was based on paper, right? So if somebody was going to commit a security fraud, or they were going to commit one of these types of crimes, you'd have somebody forging paper documents, with paper identifications, paper documents, which would give them access, right? And that is the old world, because the old world was based on files and paper, and it is a trustless world. But the new world, which is, I think, the majority now, is system-based, right? So, money is a digit in the system. Your identity is a digit in the system. Your bank balance is a value in the system. So if so the threats come from system attacks, right? And blockchain through cryptography and through having decentralized copies of records, provides inherently some security with that. Now, how can people access that? I think that's a really good question. So I think building things or using applications on public blockchains, is a very good start in doing that. So you have some of the leading blockchains, Ethereum, Avalanche, Polkadot, where there's a number of applications that can be used. Is something. I think there's opportunities there, but I think it's wider. I think there's also there's also the opportunity to extend cryptography and digital signing to everything we do, right? So what I'd say to most businesses is become digital, make sure your records are digital, and you can also store things on chain, right? So there's a lot of talk about patents, and there's a lot of legal stuff trying to prove when something happened or who did it. If you're using a cryptographic digital signature linked to a wallet, and that's written to a blockchain, then that is proof, right? That has a timestamp, it's immutable. So there is a lot that can be done, and I believe that this problem is going to accelerate as we move into the world of AI. The sophistication and the ease with which you can have deep fake attacks, on businesses is going to be massive, and the price of the identity as more is done online and higher value, is going to be bigger. So in today's world, somebody steals your driver's license, you can cancel it. There's a limitation to what they can do. But if somebody gets your identity in the metaverse, and that metaverse allows them to go through different environments and access different things, and a lot of these platforms, as you realize, you don't get through to anyone, right? I had a problem with my phone. And I got a chatbot, right? I didn't get through to anybody, and eventually, in fact, I don't think I spoke to anybody at all in the whole experience. So, if somebody gets your identity or you have an attack, the price is bigger and it's harder for you to do anything. So, I think using blockchain, will be important, because blockchain can provide traceability. It can provide signatures, private key cryptography, which can be used to authenticate. And I think that will be important. And I also think that this should be extended to more tasks, right? So at the moment, it's used for currencies, it's used for a few things. But my thing is, why can't you sign a bank transaction with a private key? Why can't you sign your will with a private key? Why can't you sign, sign a work contract with a private key? And I think the more we start using digital encryption technologies, the more secure we'll be, apart from quantum. Right. So if you look at quantum compute, which is starting to emerge, quantum compute challenges private public key infrastructure, and it challenges RSA, which happen to be some of the cryptography that's widely used in blockchain and Web3. Now, a lot of the big chains have started to have quantum-proof cryptography and introduce that. And there are different methods of quantum-proof cryptography. Symmetric keys, for example, lattice-based cryptography that can help, and these are forming. But I do believe that the more we use decentralized technology, which is encrypted, the better our position, and it can be easily accessed.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for always doing justice to the questions. If I just to the Decentralized Media Roundtable, and our guest today is David Palmer. He's an amazing personality in the blockchain Web3 space, working as a co-founder of Vodafone's platform. So moving forward, before we give our audience at least 1 or 2 moments to also share their thoughts as well as questions as regards to the conversation we are having. You made mention earlier about funding as well as Africa. And I understand the need for funding and infrastructure, which drives me to my next question. Now, are they innovative funding models, or let's say financial instrument that you see as particularly effective for supporting large-scale digitization projects globally? And then regarding the Africa space as a whole, how crucial is global collaboration for Africa in achieving digitization goals, as well as where do you see Africa leading in global digitization collaboration? Are there any unique entry points available for Africa as a whole?
So I'll start off by repeating my point that I believe that this particular time we're in, in terms of digital technology and the emergence of new digital technologies, is indeed an opportunity to reset the boundaries. Right? It's a reset. It can be a reset, and I think that is good for Africa. I believe it makes things possible. I think if you look at some of the headlines, I was watching a presentation on Africa, and you're seeing things like the emergence of Nigeria, and Nigeria will be one of the world's biggest economies in years to come. And if you look at some of the demographics, African countries, I'm just going to generalize, but they have the most working age people, right? So a lot of countries geographically are suffering from what you call an aging population, which affects productivity. But if you look at growth and you look at working people, working age population, I think Africa's at the top. And I don't need to mention the resources that Africa has, right? So I think the ingredients to use the technology for success are there. Now, if I'm to pick something that I believe I'm excited about in terms of realizing that opportunity, putting all of this together, and I believe that in terms of financing, that's what you call tokenized, real world asset tokenization, right? So asset tokenization, I believe, has the potential to bring a lot of liquidity into Africa. The regulation will be key, right? So collaboration and cooperation across African states on the regulation, the regulatory environment will be important. But if you just look at what is possible, I think that many emerging countries are developing and it's exciting. But when you take a drive around, you'll see lots of green land. Even in the most developed, you'll see a lot of undeveloped land, some of it in prime spots. And why is it that way? Because you can't get liquidity, you can't get the investment. So what I think you've always had in Africa is ambition and vision. I think we're a people and a nation of vision without the resources to make it happen. And I believe that what tokenization can do is, if you see a piece of land and somebody owns the piece of land, and somebody has a vision to turn that land into an office block or turn it into a Bitcoin mining center or turn it into a hotel, that physical asset plus the business plan associated with the vision can be tokenized, right? You can tokenize both of them together or just the land, and you can fractionalize it, right? So you turn it into what's called a fungible token. So in Ethereum, that would be an ERC20, and there's other standards. And you could have a piece of land, you could tokenize it into 1 million tokens, and theoretically you can sell that to 1 million people, right? And that does two things. Number one, it provides an investment opportunity that wouldn't be there to ordinary people, right? Because a lot of that investment would be safe for accredited investors and big institutions, because you're able to bring finance in that otherwise wouldn't be there. Now, where you can start getting finance and investment to assets with a vision, I believe that can really bring about change. I think at the moment, the financing has a lot of it has a lot of restrictions, the current financing methods we have, and I believe that real world asset tokenization is a massive difference. Now, you had things called initial coin offerings and security token offerings and other ways. So a lot of this has started, and it started not for real world assets so much, but it started for getting investment in businesses. And there was a lot of bad press. There was a lot of the businesses who raised monies on what we call these initial coin offerings were not successful. But you're starting to see, if you just Google it, that even in America, there's a lot of initiatives where people are tokenizing real estate. Right? That's a big one. But you can tokenize a business. There's no reason why an ordinary business, who wants to raise money can't tokenize itself into 1 million tokens and sell 25% of them. So it does open up a lot of opportunity to bring liquidity, and I think this could be a game changer in resetting the balance.
Thank you so very much for always trying to simplify your input as regards to the discussion. So over to our audience now. If you have any questions for Palmer, you can simply raise your hand and then we'll usher you with the mic. So we'll be taking questions now. All right, Sharufa, over to you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm super grateful of being here today. My name is Sharufa Walker. I am the CEO and co-founder of Welcome Home. And we're an international realty platform that empowers marginalized communities to own real world backed assets, one piece at a time. So I love this conversation, David. And I appreciate just a lot of your insight in knowledge in regards to what blockchain Web3 unlocks for the community. And one of the questions that I wanted to ask, because we are building in Dakar, Senegal, when it comes down to regulation, like what are you seeing in regards to the African landscape really onboarding itself from a regulatory standpoint to be able to empower companies like myself to be in compliance early on rather than being reactionary, right, later on?
So thanks, Sharifa. I think that was a great question. So I think the answer is not enough, right? So you have some countries like Brazil and others who have been pretty aggressive from a regulation point of view to make it very friendly to Web3 companies and to provide some certainty on investment. I think even in Nigeria there's some ambiguity. So on the one hand, there is a big Web3 community, but on the other hand, there is some clampdown as well, right? So, and I think this is where cooperation needs to come. I think if the leaders, can come together and maybe draft for the region, a regulatory framework, that this could attract significant investment, right? Because the whole Web3 community, which I think, love that the potential of that area anyway, but they would also love the certainty that it brings. But there's been other countries, I think, that have been quicker from a regulatory position. And I can tell you from a business point of view that the lack of clarity and regulation leads to risk and it can lead to a lot of hesitancy in terms of investing. So I think there's more that needs to be done. And it hasn't been quick enough. So that is one of the negative things. But you are starting to see some leaders speak up, and some leaders set some sort of timelines for regulatory discussions. But I think they'll need to come together to really force it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Shirvo, for that question. We'll be taking more questions. So if you have a question, all right. Let's go to Mr. Ali. Mr. Ali Aziz, over to you.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much, David. Thanks for your presentation and lots of information that you have given us. I have noticed that in the developing countries that most of the youths are much more interested in the non-permissioned blockchain. Meanwhile, all the central banks wanted them to use the permissioned blockchain. Do you think that we may have convergence of the two, or they may just continue to be separate in the future?
Yeah. So my view is that it will all be public blockchain going forward. So I think in the years to come it will be public blockchains. But myself, even in Vodafone, we started with a permission blockchain.
Okay. That's great. That's great.
Balance the risk. So with public blockchains, there's a few barriers, right, that scare companies off and banks off. One of them are gas fees, right? So if you think of gas fees, it's like a per use fee to do a transaction on the chain. And what businesses like are certainty, right? So if you're advertising a certain price for something, you want to know what your cost is. And the gas fees can fluctuate dramatically depending on the price of the cryptocurrency which is associated with the chain. So what you saw in the past few years when the price of cryptocurrencies accelerated was the price of doing a transaction also accelerated. Recently, we've seen what we call layer 2 platforms and protocols come up, which do a lot of off-chain transactions, and they can aggregate transactions, roll them up, etc., which drops the cost. But there's still some hesitancy and large fluctuations associated with gas fees. So that's one. The other thing is the speed. So public blockchains have inherently been pretty slow, especially in terms of getting finality. So this is getting the transaction, finalized on chain. And again, that has been a barrier, for a lot of businesses and banks using it. And I think the final one is about privacy. So in Europe, I don't know if it's in the States, but in a lot of countries you've had what you call privacy legislation. So in Europe, you call it GDPR, so General Data Protection Regulations, and this focuses on the privacy of private data, and also the ability to be able to remove data. So you have this principle called the right to be forgotten. So this means that if Google or another platform has my data and it has something I did when I was 15, then that shouldn't be in the public domain for perpetuity. I should have the right to go to Google or whatever platform and say, okay, it's my personal data, remove it. So that's what we have in the UK, and that was introduced maybe 3-4 years ago. But what that means for blockchain is that blockchains are immutable, right? So once something's written to a blockchain, it's written and it's not going anywhere. So there was a lot of issues around blockchains and the clash between this sort of general data protection regulation, which scared a lot of banks off. Again, all of these problems are being overcome. So public blockchains are now faster. You can have what you call channel broadcasts, where essentially not every block gets everything. You have more offline transactions. So and so you've got a lot of ways in which a lot of these things are being overcome. The gas fees haven't been totally overcome, but with layer 2s, you're starting to address that problem. So I believe that the future is public blockchains. But in terms of convergence, you're absolutely right. So for example, we use a permission blockchain, but we also have a bridge to the major public blockchains. So we can offer both. And if you look at Avalanche and a lot of the public chains, they have what you call public permissions. So where you can have a permissioned chain, or you can have permissioned transactions and a permissioned ecosystem within a public chain. So I believe that convergence is happening. Will it be enough for the banks and central bank digital currencies? Very interesting. I think the banks will continue to use permission chains for now, but I do believe eventually that everything will be on public chains.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aliu, for that question, and thanks to David also. So while Aliu's hand was up, or rather while his question was being taken, Mr. Eric, I saw your hand also. I don't know if you want to take a moment to ask your question and make a contribution.
Oh, yes, thank you, Solomon, for an outstanding job you're doing. And Mr. David, what else can I say? You've been incredible in every which way in terms of, basically not even the delivery itself, but just simplifying this for an average man in the street, And I really want to touch on my question, has to do with the potential. You just mentioned the fact that this has the potential to basically change, how things are financed and also the economy of Africa as a whole. Especially looking at it from the just taking from the tokenization part of it. My question is for Africa to fully maximize this. I know the roles of civil society organizations like ours, the advocacy organizations like ours, are very important, and we're very proud to say we have one of the CEOs in the Nigerian government that led on the identity tokenization as well. And you was as recent as a month ago was the one spearheading identity management commission under the Federal Ministry of Innovation and Communication for the economy, and a lot of innovative things that have to, as you all know, so identity is a very critical component of the digital economy itself, and also every aspect of the emerging tech as we know it. So my question is there going to be a need for Africa to have its a protocol for onboarding different classes of assets, so that it's easier for the rest of the world to interact with such tokens, a token that represent tokenized real estate, resource, and a bunch of other things. Would there be a need for that? And that is my question. Would there be a need for Africa to have some kind of protocol to onboard things that are domiciled in its environment, so that it's easier for the rest of the world to trust what has been offered because of the voting processes and also all the guarantees part of it. Hopefully that makes any kind of sense. Okay.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. So I think we're agreed. I think identity will be key, and digital identity will be key, and the data will be key to African economies, and so will this token economy. Right, token economy. By token economies, we're talking about real-world assets being tokenized. We're talking about utility tokens for blockchains and other businesses. We're talking about central bank digital currencies potentially, and we're also talking about tokenized deposits. So these are where funds in bank accounts can be tokenized and also used. And I believe that this is going to be important. But how you interact or interoperate tokens is by exchanges, right? So you have you have decentralized exchanges, which are typically used, so things like Uniswap and are sort of big decentralized exchanges in Web3, and then you've got you've got centralized exchanges like Coinbase, that are custodial exchanges, meaning that they hold currencies or coins, cryptocurrency on your behalf. So I think if Africa is to, number one, tokenize its assets, then and is going to want to change or have the ability to swap those tokens for other currencies and other tokens internationally, then it needs to start regulating exchanges, right? Maybe you need some African some exchanges which are more dedicated to the continent, and I believe that that is part of the key infrastructure. Does Africa need its own protocol? Why not? Right? Why not? If you look at what happens wider, where you have international disputes, the first thing you see is that they start cutting off your infrastructure, right? So if Africa has the ability to have its own, its own token infrastructure, its own blockchain infrastructure, that can interoperate with other infrastructures, I think that would make a lot of sense. So that would give some self-sufficiency in terms of tokenizing assets. It would give some self-sufficiency in terms of NFTs. It would give some self-sufficiencies where you're having swaps for other tokens or other currencies. with exchanges as well. So I think that would be good. But I think there's a lot more, right? I think we've got to look at the infrastructure, right? If you look at a lot of developing countries, the infrastructure is poor, and the poor infrastructure translates into poor opportunities. You're not able to realize it. That is multiplied times 1,000 or more with this new world we're heading into, right? And I think you're absolutely right, Eric. Blockchain is an infrastructure. Right, AI is an infrastructure. Large language models are infrastructures. Wallets are infrastructures. Mobile networks are infrastructures, and a lot of the investment needs to go in these infrastructures very quickly to make sure that the citizens and the businesses have access to the opportunities. And if we think of metaverse, AI, wallets, mobile as infrastructures, then yeah, absolutely, they should have their own protocol, their own exchanges, their own tokens, and investment, but also to trade with the rest of the world.
Thank you, fantastic. Solomon, I have a follow-up question. My follow-up question is has to do with recently there's a breakthrough by Meta of the VR. Basically, we've gone from what it was, a few months ago to hyper realistic, like imagery, So what do you think with the Meta breakthrough? How close are we to having an absolute, metaverse, in terms of, this, having it able to apply? I don't know if you heard. David, can you hear me?
Eric, my internet, I think it was a
Okay.
bit unstable. If you could just repeat the last part, that would be great. Thank you.
I said with the breakthrough recently by Meta of the hyper-realistic, the VR, right? There's I don't know if you saw it, but there's something I saw recently where the Meta released in one of its recent presentations the hyper-realistic immersive virtual reality where the images that we used to be a little bit more pixelated and stuff like that, now we have become a little bit more hyper-realistic. So I'll just say it with that breakthrough, how close could you put a number in terms of how close we are to really applying the metaverse, the different some of the potential of the metaverse has been discussed, So with that breakthrough, has that accelerated how the metaverse will be applied, in our day-to-day lives? It could be work, it could be personal, it could be just making just work as we know it, a little bit more different. Does that bring us closer to the real metaverse?
Yeah. No, Eric, I think that's a great question. So what we've seen with the metaverse is ups and downs, right? So if we go to 2021, everybody's talking about the metaverse and a 5 trillion opportunity by 2030, and Facebook changes its name, and everything's about the metaverse. This year, everything's about AI, and not many people talk about the metaverse. But you're absolutely right; it hasn't gone away. I just think that the evolution of the metaverse is going to be something I call embedded metaverse. So Meta will have a metaverse that is available on their platforms, Instagram and Facebook and other things, and it will be an immersive layer. And I think that Apple have already done that with the Apple Pro. They're showing how their content and their applications can be available, in 3D and an immersive VR or mixed reality. And I think that will follow suit, right? So that's where the metaverse is embedded in existing platforms and social media. But eventually you'll see a convergence where you have interoperability, and I can take my identity across from one platform to another, and I can take my assets, my digital assets across. And then I think eventually you have a converged metaverse, right? But in terms of the specific things, I think what was key there is that AI was part of it, right? So in terms of the hyper realistic, AI was part of it. I think AI is going to be key to accelerating the metaverse. But in terms of this being part of everyday lives, I think there's a few things that we need that needs to be addressed. I think one of them is I think we all watched the Apple announcement with excitement, and we all clapped, and we all want the handset, but it's $3,000, right? So it's very clear that the initial Apple offering is building a metaverse for the rich. It's not for the masses, right? And certainly in developing countries like Africa, I think the price could be a barrier. If we look at the other sort of barrier, it relates to that first chart, right? So you've got 8 million people on smartphones, 8 billion people on smartphones. Over 95% of the population. Everything we do is via our phone. But to really get the most out of the metaverse, you need VR glasses, right? That costs anywhere from $500 to $3,000. What percentage of the population has VR or mixed reality headsets? I'd say it's probably under 1%. So until we solve the problem of how you access the metaverse, which initially needs to be via the phone, we're not going to have mass adoption. And this is the major problem. So, I speak to a lot of the metaverse companies, and you're starting to have this sort of layered experience where, you could use your phone to access some parts of the metaverse and some of it. But then when you want higher fidelity, you can maybe use glasses. Maybe you can use higher resolution monitors. But these are the problems that need to be resolved, because I think without mass access devices, you won't have mass adoption.
Thank you very much for that. We are drawing closer to the finish point, the end point of this session, and I want to take a very special moment to appreciate each and every one of us for being from the beginning through to this point. And a big shout out to David for being exceptional during his I would not want to say interview, but during his session, trying to give insights and updates on the trending and emerging markets. Before I hand over to Eric, I would love David to just take 2 minutes to give us like a summary or final words over the entire session.
I like slides, right? So I'm probably going to just put up. I'm probably just going to put up 2 slides to just in my final words, if I may. So I'm just going to share. Here we go. And let me know when you can see this.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So what the 2 points I just want to end with is that we are living in a time of technological change, which is unparalleled. And I believe that technological change means unparalleled opportunity, right? We have the opportunity. There is an opportunity for us individually and at the macro level for countries to reset the boundaries, right? I really believe that this, represents, a chance to reset. It's a chance for reset. And if you look at the sort of the way the world has changed, yes, blockchain is the new infrastructure, it's the new trust. You can have tokenization, smart contracts, companies which are totally based on smart contracts, finance based on smart contracts with DeFi. These smart contracts which are law in England. You've got AI, which is changing the world in terms of access to information, computation, intelligence. Tokens, which can change the financial world, 5G, which is connecting the world, and the metaverse, which can create a new world and new opportunities, removing geography and removing other barriers, right? So I think that's important. And I also just point to something Steve Jobs said, where he said everything around you that you call life is made up by people who are no smarter than you, right? So I just say no smarter than you. Maybe the most important thing is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and that you're just going to live in it versus embrace it, change it, improve it, and make your mark upon it. And I just say that to say that, you know, we can make a difference. I think this technology and the new environment we're in is providing the opportunity to make a difference. But we've got to get educated, right? We've got to get up to speed individually, you know, at a state level, at a country level, in these new technologies. And we've got to come together to see how we can use them to realize opportunity, right? To reset the boundary. And I think it's an exciting time. I think Steve Jobs was right. Let's stop being spectators and watching, you know, these developments go by. Let's not watch the next Google go by, but let's make ourselves the next Google, right? Let's make ourselves the next, you know, big company. And why not, right? The opportunity is there. So I end on that.
That's a powerful way to end it. Thank you so much. Over to you, Eric.
Thank you. First, I want to thank you, Solomon, you know, for an outstanding job, and also get well soon, Monalisa, Agbata. I hope you can hear it. And for the virtual audience, you know, and started with the Rufa ladies first, and also engineers, you know, for the remarkable job you've done, you know, both in Nigeria with spearheading the Nigerian identity management, you know, commission, especially initiatives like the tokenization of identity is something that I felt the world needs to. There's a whole lot, you know, that's going on, and also I've also thank others that have raised us virtually here with your presence. You know. Thank you for supporting us with your virtual presence, and also for a lot of you, you know, also behind the scenes as well. And for David, thank you for all the great work you've been doing, both professionally and I'll continue to be continue to support for some of us that are pretty passionate about, you know, leveraging technology to spearhead this new era of, you know, Africa leveraging its resource and also its capacity and good partnership and alliances. Thank you for making time today, and thank you for all the incredible things you continue to do. So we wish you good health, and also for the new advisory board out of appointment, you know, out of Japan. We wish you all the best with that, and as we continue to lean on you as well for your expertise and also your guidance here in the chamber. Thank you, and stay blessed. And Solomon, every time, you know, we reach out to you, you stepped up and a lot of people, especially the youth, especially, you know, urgent. You are serving as a perfect template to the things that you do. You've been as a volunteer within the chamber, you've done incredibly to make sure that activities or programs come to fruition. Just to let you know, the chamber has a lot of programs and initiatives that leverage technology. And I was glad, you know, we now have as our global advisory board member, Mr. Neil. Congrats on joining us to lead this advocacy on leveraging the technology, empower Africans, and spearhead the economy that Africa that are badly needs finance to drive for a fully digitized economy. So the core IR as well. So thank you all, and looking forward to the next roundtable with another guest. For all of you, I just want to thank you, and also see you here. Hopefully, well, super interesting guest. Help us, you know, navigating the emerging economy and also navigating, you know, people that's thank you on behalf of everyone in the chamber here, straightaway and thank you, David. Thank you, Solomon. to Solomon for him to
Thank you.
get us out.
All right. So officially, I want to give due honor to whom honor is due, and I want to appreciate each and every one. And on behalf of the Decentralized Media African Chamber of the Youth of Commerce, I want to officially close this event. See you same station in a few weeks' time from now. Thank you and have a great week ahead. Bye.
Thank you.